What is going on, guys? Welcome to the mini presentation going over the sweet spot for pricing as an online coach in order to get to $10,000 per month. So this is a training that is heavily requested, and honestly, I don't really think there's any information out there in the space that goes as deep as I'm about to go in terms of understanding the ethics, in terms of understanding the principles, the human psychology behind understanding your price point and being able to be confident in that price point as well. Before I get into the presentation here, a very, very common slip up that I see with a lot of online coaches is that they price their services based off of their emotions, or they price their services based off of their confidence that month or that quarter, whatever it may be. And the downfall to that is it can be very up and down, right? Or maybe on the flip side, you're a coach and you've been charging the same rate for many, many years, and it's been very low, and it's hard for you to even get by because your prices are so low, and you're not increasing your price point as you're increasing your skill set over time as well, which is also very important to understand. So these are a lot of different elements that I see, and especially in the high ticket space as well. Understanding the differences between low ticket, high ticket, if I'm charging just a monthly reoccurring fee for my coaching because I want to go month to month with my clients, what would that look like? And I'm going to get into that today and really flesh all this out for you guys so you have a deep understanding with it. And my goal by the end of this presentation is for you guys to have a range in terms of where your prices should be based off of the variables that I'm going to get into in this presentation, okay? So that's what I'm going to get into today. Before I even get into the slides, I would say one of the biggest problems as well that I see inside of the industry is that most people, they just randomly think of a price. And usually that price is based off of what your competitors are doing or what the industry norms are. Another downfall to that is that now all of a sudden, especially your finances in your business, but usually your business overall, now it's dictated on other people instead of you. Dictated by your competitors. It's dictated on how the market is trending. It's dictated on the economy. And sure, don't get me wrong, those are definitely variables, and those are definitely things that can influence things inside of your coaching business, especially finances. But what I want to do for you, and especially my goal inside of this presentation, is I want to flip that. I want you to take back control. I want you to be clear and confident in your pricing to make sure that you can get to where you want to go. So without further ado, let me get this going. I'm going to click play, and we are full screen. All right. So there's a few different variables I'm going to look at in this presentation today. The easy way to look at things, and if you guys want just a quick answer instead of watching probably this 20-minute video, is you can just go and understand what your time is worth per hour. And I'm going to walk you through that exercise to start. And then I'm going to go through my deeper strategy, which is understanding the 5 different elements that you need to look at and understand fundamentally when setting your prices. Honestly, guys, I recommend you go through this whole thing, but this is something that can really help. So for context, before I get into it, I'm going to be primarily speaking to online coaching offers here, not necessarily like low-end ebook products or subscriptions, things like that. Although I can definitely get into that in another video if there's a demand for it and if you guys want it. But I know my audience pretty well, and most of you guys are coaching. Most of you guys are doing one-on-one or group coaching, and you have a monthly fee. You're going month to month, or maybe some pay in full. And that's primarily what I'm going to speak to inside of this coaching video. So just want to provide that context there. So first things first, what is your hourly rate? So we'll start with this example. I would say most online coaches in their first 1 to 3 years of coaching, usually around $100 an hour is pretty standard. I'm sure most of you agree with me. Don't get me wrong. Some are higher, some are lower. But I would say on average, $100 an hour is pretty standard when it comes to coaching, when it comes to you getting your certifications, when it comes to what an hour of your time would be worth inside of the gym as well, in the beginning stages anyway. So let's say your max capacity for coaching is 40 clients, okay? I also think that's pretty standard in working with over 700 900 now online coaches in the past 7 years. I've seen a lot of different capacities depending on if you grow a team and things like that. Again, I'm going to keep this presentation very, very high level and simple. On your own, I haven't really seen a lot of other coaches be able to handle more than 40 clients at a relatively high price point with high touch. Okay, so 40 people is your max, let's say. So if each client, let's say, takes an average of 1 hour per week for you guys to do their check-ins, their adjustments, the questions, things like that. Maybe you do a call or a biweekly call. And on average, it's about 1 hour per week, let's say, sometimes a little bit less. If you're onboarding, sometimes a little bit more. This is usually, again, in most of the coaches that I've worked with, usually the range I see. So if you're very simple math here, guys. If your time is worth $100 per hour and you're working 1 hour per week with these clients, well, then $100 per hour times 4 hours per month to service this client brings us to $400 per month is what you should charge them. Now, obviously, this is just being extremely logical, right? Extremely logical. I'm not going too deep. I'm going to go deep in the end of this presentation here. But this is just very surface level, high level. And if this is you and you want to end the presentation here and you're good with this and you feel good with this, there you go, off to the races. I hope you're clear and convicted in this price point. But let's go a couple levels deeper as well. So before I actually move on, if you have 40 clients and you're charging $100 an hour, so it's $400 a month for your ideal type of client to work with you, that's about $16K per month around your max, right? So as you can see, you're kind of limited. You're kind of limited here unless you have other products, unless you have different coaching offers as well, or you start to scale with a team. $16K a month is honestly kind of your ceiling, which sure is probably great for a lot of you to get to, but once you get there, you're going to realize it's kind of limiting. $16K a month isn't actually a lot of money at the end of the day. So let's take into account some different things here. Over time, you're going to get more skilled as a coach. You're going to solve deeper problems. You might get a little bit more holistic in nature in terms of just being able to connect different things inside of your coaching as well. Now, all of a sudden, your time per hour is going to start to get more valuable, right? Why is that? It's because you're getting more skilled. You're in more demand as a coach. So over time, and I work with a lot of coaches and their hourly rate is $200, $225, $300 per hour. Let's raise your hourly rate to $200 per hour, just future thinking, and look at some of this math here. So if, again, simple math, same equation we're using, if you're $200 an hour, your clients take about 4 hours a month to service each, that's $800 a month that you're charging for your clients, right? And if you have 40 clients, that's $32,000 a month in revenue. So now you just doubled your monthly revenue by doubling your hourly rate. Now I'm about to get in to understand how to double your hourly rate here in a second, but just follow with me in another example here. So let's say over time, you're in years 5, 6, 7, 8 of your coaching as well, and your skills are improving and improving and improving, and your hourly rate is increasing with that. If you're charging $300 an hour now, and again, each client takes around 4 hours to service, that's $1,200 per month that you would have to charge your client. If you're working with 40 clients, that's $48,000 per month in revenue. And all of this starts to come from you understanding how to increase your skills in order to charge higher prices. Now, how do you increase your skills? You increase your skills by obviously educating yourself and getting reps and working with clients, but also you start to understand how to increase the quality and the severity, let's say, of the problem that you're solving, right? Let me give you a couple of examples here. Pro athletes, I'm a big hockey fan, okay? I live up here in Canada. We love our hockey, specifically Toronto Maple Leafs. Everyone on the team gets paid different, right? Depending on the value that they bring to the team and the problems that they solve for the team. So for example, we've got lower end players who just have kind of one job, like defensemen, to just pass the puck up and defend, and that's their job. They get paid maybe $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, something like that per year. And then we have guys like the photo here, Austin Matthews, who scores 50, 60 goals, which is an incredibly skilled, very skilled talent inside of the NHL. And he gets paid, his new contract was like $13.5 million. So why is that? They do the same thing, right? They're hockey players, so they do the same thing, but one gets paid almost 12 times more than the other, or even more. Why is that? It's because the problem that this player solves, Austin Matthews, let's say, instead of the other player, is extremely, extremely different. It's the same thing for you. Another great example is doctors versus brain surgeons, right? Let's say a general practitioner doctor that kind of does everything. Again, they make a really good income. They do well for themselves. Don't get me wrong. That's great. But a brain surgeon usually gets paid 5x what a general practitioner doctor does. Why is that? It's because the problem that they solve and the uniqueness of their skill is a lot more valuable. So over time, as you guys are starting to understand kind of your footing in the marketplace and what this looks like, you want to be thinking in this way, because this is how you start to increase your hourly rate. This is how you can start to increase your prices, because it's all understanding these different dynamics that go on inside of the market. So I'm going to take you through a couple of examples, right? Let's say you're helping busy moms lose 5 to 10 pounds, okay? So it's a good start. I mean, everyone needs to start somewhere, but I could also watch a YouTube video and learn that for free, right? So now the value and the severity of the problem that you're solving is extremely low, because I can guarantee you almost every single person on earth who has any knowledge on health and fitness is going to try and solve that problem for that busy mom. Whereas if you start to get more educated over time, increase your skills, and then in green here, as you can see, you start to help that busy mom optimize her lifestyle and her hormones and her daily stressors to become a more present parent with their family, feel great about herself, and maybe finally wear that little black dress that she has in the back of her closet and confident and radiant. That's a very different problem that you're solving. It's still similar. Like, obviously, you're still going to help her lose that 5 to 10 pounds. And I'm more speaking here in terms of your messaging. This is not necessarily something I want you to put in your bio. It's way too long for that. It's more so for like your content, your branding, and things like that. But my point is, the more that you can communicate to your ideal types of clients that you solve a more valuable problem, well, guess what happens to your price point? It starts to go up. Let's use another example. I help busy businessmen get fit and healthy, okay? Very, very general. You know who else can help busy businessmen get fit and healthy? Just about every single other trainer on earth. Whereas if you go a couple levels deeper and you say, okay, maybe instead of that, I'm helping busy businessmen increase their testosterone levels naturally to become more successful in their career, more fit, and be that super dad for their family when they get home from the office. Okay, now you've just massively increased your value by going a couple levels deeper and increasing the severity of the problem that you're solving. So that's the end of my presentation when it comes to understanding how to increase your hourly rate and a couple of variables to do so, and just understanding how to set your prices based off of what your hourly rate is. Now I'm going to go into my second half of my presentation, which is understanding the 5 deeper elements to consider when you're setting your prices. And in my opinion, these are very, very important because, like I said at the top of this presentation, most clients, or sorry, not clients, prospects, because if you become a client, we're going to talk about this, just kind of throw spaghetti against a wall in terms of their price point and sees what sticks. And to be honest, I mean, there definitely is a little bit of trial and error in your process. I mean, I can definitely respect that. But there is kind of an art and a science to this, and I want to teach you this as I'm going through this here. So the 5 elements that I want you to consider, number 1 is ideal type of client direction, kind of like what I just talked about. Number 2 is purchasing power. So what is the affordability of this ideal type of client? This is something most people don't think about. Most clients think, oh, how much money can I get out of my potential client, and can they put it on a credit card or get thousands of dollars out of their savings? And sure, don't get me wrong, if you're solving a very valuable problem, then it's 100% worth it. But you want to keep in mind what the purchasing power of your ideal type of client is, because for long-term growth and sustainability in your company, that's extremely important. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. Number 3, severity of problem solved. Number 4 is your track record and years of experience as a coach. And then number 5 is, that's a typo, your Sully and demand curve, your supply and demand curve. Understanding the demand that you have for your coaching, because this is just business 101, right? And commerce 101. When there isn't a lot of supply of something and there's a lot of demand on something, what happens to the price? it goes up, right? So this is the same thing with your coaching. If you don't have that much time in the day, you're busy, you have a bunch of clients, and you're taking on a few new clients, or you're really, really busy and you can't really take on any new clients. Maybe you only have like 1 or 2 spaces left. Well, your next step is to slowly increase your prices so that we can start to shift this curve. So I'm going to get into that now. So number one, for all of this to work accurately, what we want to do is understand who your ideal type of client is. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want you to go too deep here. I definitely want to make sure that you pick an ideal type of client and direction that these types of people are easy to find for you. They're within your audience. I don't want you to niche yourself out of a niche, but you do want to have a clear direction with your coaching, because this is going to get you out of the mass market and into creating a market of your own where you're more in control. Okay, so who is that type of person that you want to work with? Can you create coaching systems, content, branding around that direction? Because over time, when you start to niche down a little bit, you start to go from this red ocean, if you've heard this term before, where you're competing against everyone. You're competing against like Chris Hemsworth $3 apps. You're competing against The Rock in his fucking apps. You're competing against like the entire weight loss market, YouTube, Instagram, tea detoxes, like fucking everything. Whereas when you start to niche down and you have a clear direction with your ideal type of client, well, now all of a sudden you've created your own market space, right? Now all of a sudden the competition is kind of irrelevant because you're so clear in your who that it's kind of apples and oranges. They can't even compare your services with the basic 24-hour gym down the road. Now all of a sudden you have more value to your coaching for your ideal type of client because you're so specific. Their core values align with your core values and your coaching. This is the first step when it comes to understanding your pricing, because the more you create your own market, the more in control of a price you are. So, second thing I want you guys to understand is purchasing power. Okay, so this is pretty easy for me to explain. You just need to understand how much money your ideal type of client has available to them to invest in their health and fitness, essentially, right? Well, it's a fancy way of saying the financial ability and availability of your ideal type of client to buy your products and services. The reason why this is important is because you want to make sure that this is matched, right? If you're selling $5,000 coaching programs to college kids in their early 20s who want to build their next 10 pounds of muscle, that's a pretty big mismatch, right? You want to make sure that it matches in terms of the purchasing power of your ideal type of client and the prices that you have for your coaching, okay? This is very, very important. So what I want you guys to do, this is an interactive presentation, by the way. What I want you to do is I want you to rate yourself, your ideal type of client's purchasing power from low, medium to high. Okay, so what I mean by this, and I've given you some barometers here, low means they can't really afford $300 a month. $300 is kind of the max. Medium is $300 to $800 a month. That's kind of their range. And then high is $800 to $2,000 or maybe even more. Okay, so they have a good disposable income, they have a good job, they're probably well off, and they're looking to invest in their health. Rate your ideal type of client here, because at the end, I'm going to show you how this all works together and where your range is at with these different prices. Number 3, severity of the problem solved. So I kind of just talked about this above when I was talking about your hourly rate and how to increase it. But you need to understand, and you guys already know this, I'm sure, that your ideal type of client usually is going to come to you with their symptoms, right? It's not the overall problem, it's more so the symptoms, like, oh, I want to lose my muffin top. Oh, I don't really have a lot of energy throughout the day. Oh, I have brain fog. And they have a lack of understanding of the problem overall. So if you as the coach, if you just took what they said for face value and you solved that, guess what? I mean, they could solve that with a free YouTube video, right? They could solve that with a $20 app, whatever it may be. So before you even start with a client, you need to make sure that your onboarding conversation or your sales call needs to be around educating them over the overall problem that they're struggling with. And you guys need to get on the same page with this, because the deeper and the more you can help them understand that their problem isn't the symptoms that they're feeling, but it's more so the lifestyle that has contributed to these symptoms, which may have been 10 years of habits, right? And you need to work with them for you. Like usually guys, it's not just a quick 3-month fix, right? Like a 90-day fix. Usually it's a 6-month to a year process, depending obviously of your ideal type of client and where things are at. So communicating this to your ideal type of client helps with how much you're going to get paid as well. And I'm not saying we're trying to get as much money out of your client as possible. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is if you don't communicate the actual problem to them and how deep it actually is, they're actually not even really going to value it. And they're going to get shiny object syndrome. They're going to go all over the place. But when you can help diagnose where they're currently at, go a couple levels deeper in terms of what they're actually struggling with so that they understand it on a deeper level, they're going to be a client for life with you because you just took the time to do something that most people wouldn't have done because they're just trying to sell them onto something. So the more you can help them understand that and the longer term issue that you're going to fix, A, the more retention you're going to have, but also B, the more valuable your coaching is to them, right? Like this coach gets it. This coach actually took the time to help me understand that the reason why my testosterone was low, for example, wasn't because I'm just eating like shit, even though that has something to do with it. It's also this long list of other things that potentially could be going into it, which is more lifestyle related. And we're going to work together for 6 to 9 months to a year to slowly start to introduce new habits and be able to raise this over time because it is a long, slow process instead of just an overnight process. Just for example, giving you guys examples. So I kind of just went through this, but for example, helping a middle-aged busy mom lose her love handles, right? If that's the problem that you're solving, that client won't stay with you for long. The reason being is because that client also thinks she could probably just walk on a treadmill for 20 minutes a day to fix that problem and not pay you. And she might be right, you know? Whereas if you help her optimize her hormones, tweak her lifestyle to be more conducive to the weight loss and lowering stress at the right times, optimizing her daily rhythms, and you do that, okay, well now all of a sudden that ideal type of client, they know they need a coach. Whereas the first problem, just help me lose the love handles, they don't really think they need you. And if your price point is anything over than $100, they're probably going to balk at your price, right? So that's why severity of the problem that you solve is extremely important. And a lot of you guys probably need to rethink this. So again, what I want you guys to do is I want you to rank yourself low, medium to high, okay? So what I mean by this is low is the problem that you solve for your ideal type of client, just a small change in their life, right? Like just a small change. Maybe they lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds. But it's kind of just, my life is kind of the same. Medium, it's a good improvement, right? Like I feel better. I'm more energetic. I have a little bit more productivity in my work. Like I have improved as a human being. That's medium, okay? Now we've got high, which is life-changing. Like, holy shit, before I started working with Jack, I was a lesser version of myself. And after I started working with Jack, I am a completely different person. I'm a completely different body. I'm a completely different mind. I'm a completely different husband, father, like go down. So where do you guys rank in terms of the severity of the problem that you solve? Rank yourself, low, medium, or high. And then we've got number 4. We're almost done, guys. Then we got number 4, which is track record and your experience as a coach. There's something to be said, guys, for years of experience. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you get paid in terms of your years of experience, because that's not the case. I've actually worked with coaches who have been in the game for 20 years and they suck, no offense. And then I've worked with coaches who have literally just started, like Kevin Smith, who I'm about to show you as an example, and they're phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So it's not necessarily years of experience, but more so how many clients have you successfully seen transformations with or gotten results with, whatever your definition of results is. For example, would you rather have a surgery from a doctor who this is his first surgery ever or his 10,000th surgery ever and they've been successful with every single one? It's a no-brainer, right? Who are you going to pay more for? obviously you're going to pay more for the surgeon who has experience, right? So there is something to be said with experience and with track record. So for you guys, I also want you to rate yourself. How many client transformations or how many client results do you have? Less than 10 is low. 10 to 25 is medium. 25 or more is high. Okay, so I want you to rank yourself low, medium, or high. All of this stuff is going to work together in the end, I promise. And then we've got number 5, which is supply and demand. So just like I said, you need to understand kind of where your supply and demand curve is in your business. It's very easy to do. I'm about to walk you through it. But this is important to consider when you're setting prices. So for example, for me, my one-on-one coaching, it's very, very rare that I open one-on-one coaching. Reason being is because my demand curve for my one-on-one coaching is very high and the supply for it is very low because I go very deep with one-on-one coaching. It's very intensive of my time and my energy. So I don't really open it up that much. Most of my clients do re-sign and I have a wait list. I have a wait list of clients. So with that being said, my demand curve is extremely high. And I know this when I price my services because I'm not going to work for anything less than what my rate is because I have a wait list of clients, right? So, but if I didn't have that, maybe I might be a little bit more flexible in what my rate is just to get clients in and make sure that I'm growing in the way that I want to grow. So that's just an example. Understanding where your supply and demand curve is also important because if you have no demand for your coaching, but your prices are super, super high, like, man, lower your fucking prices. Like get some clients first, and then you can start to raise your prices. So understanding this is important. Just like you see here, if you guys are listening to this as a podcast, you're obviously not seeing these slides, but I'm showing a graph here of basic supplies and demand curves. As you guys can see, as the demand curve increases, what happens to the price? It increases. So you want to make sure that you are following this law of business as well. Honestly, most of you guys might not really be here yet. A few of you probably will be, but it is an important element to take into account with your pricing. So I want you to rate yourself as well in terms of your supply and demand curve. Is it low, medium, or high? So low, you kind of struggle to get clients if you put out a call to action and you got like one client or two and it was kind of like a struggle. That's low. Medium is if you put out a call to action, you have three new clients. It's pretty easy for you to fill those 3 clients in a week or so. Then we've got high. It's super easy for you to fill your spots. In fact, you might have a wait list of clients who are waiting to work with you. So rate yourself low, medium, or high on that criteria. Now, what I'd like you to do is tally up your results. Okay, how many lows did you get? How many mediums did you get? How many highs did you get in those 5 different variables? Now, depending on where you guys lay in terms of most of your answers, I want you to set your prices accordingly, okay, in terms of where most of your answers were. Because if most of them were in the low range, your prices, let's say for month-to-month coaching, should be around $300 to $500 per month, okay? And I'm going to have a huge caveat to this. I'm going to explain in a second, but just let me get through this. If most of your most of your answers were in the medium range or medium to high range, I would say set your prices in medium, which is $500 a month to $800 a month. If most of your answers, which is probably pretty rare for most of you, but maybe some, were in the high range, then your prices should be around $800 a month to $2,000 a month, maybe even more, depending on where things are at for you and what kind of coach you are. So that's how I want you to kind of see your pricing based off your answers. Now, huge caveat here. Just because you might be in the low range, so maybe you're charging $300 to $500 per month, does not mean you're a bad coach. In fact, it might be the opposite. I'm going to use Kevin as an example here. He's a client I've worked with for quite a while now. He's at $20K per month. His price point is $350 a month. Reason being is not because he's a bad coach. I'm not suggesting that at all. It's just because the purchasing power of his ideal type of client is a little bit lower. So he has to go for more scale and keep his prices in a relatively affordable range because of that. And he's hit the sweet spot with it, which is the exact point of this training. So for you guys, If you're in the lower range, do not take that as you're a bad coach or, oh, I'm not that good. That's why my prices can't be that high. That's not it at all. In fact, they're some of the best coaches I've ever worked with, their prices are in the low range. It's these different dynamics that come into play because this doesn't necessarily have a reflection on your quality as a coach. It's more so a reflection in the product market fit. Okay. So that's really important for me to explain because some of you might be in the low range and you might be all pissed off about it, but it's not something to get emotional about. It's just being logical about this. So anyway, with that, let me show you some examples. So I'll show you Kevin. So Kevin, he works with special operations force guys who are going into soft prep. So these guys usually are in their low to mid 20s, usually, more times than not. So the purchasing power, like I said, is a little bit low. Severity of problem solved, I would say, is medium. If they don't make it or whatever it may be, usually you can go again. Track record, years of experience for Kevin as a coach is low. He just started coaching a year or so ago. But he is his ideal type of client, and he's, I don't know how many years of experience. I know it's very high, of being a soft member and being just involved in that world. So, and his laws of supply and demand is extremely high. He has a wait list. Okay. Now, as you can see, if you look at most of his answers here, they're low to medium, right? The only one that is high is supply and demand. So his price point is $350 a month. And what we're currently doing is over time, all the new clients that he gets, we're going to slowly increase that price point because his laws of supply and demand are high. But he's a great coach and he can see his answers mostly are low to medium. So he's in the low to medium price range, which is accurate for him and his ideal type of client and his coaching process, which is good. And he's crushing it with it. Like I said, he's around $20K a month. Now we've got another client, Daniel Steven. So he's the opposite of Kevin. And I want to show you kind of like two contrasts so you guys can really understand this. So Daniel Steven, I worked with him for quite a while. He would regularly hit 20K months, 30K months, 40K months, 50K months sometimes, as you guys can see here. And his branding was the executive health coach. So he was primarily working with busy executives, right? Middle-aged busy executives. So the purchasing power of his ideal type of client was very high. The severity of the problem that he solved was also very high. He was helping them lose 20 to 30 pounds, which is a significant amount of weight. I would say that's life-changing weight. And regain their energy levels that they had in their 20s again, become more productive in their career. And track record of experience, he was a coach for about 10 years, so rather high. Laws of supply and demand for Daniel, they were medium, I'd say. With a high ticket price like that, because he was charging $12K per year, sales obviously weren't constantly coming in, right? It was a little bit of a wave. It was up and down. But when they came in, they were huge. And he did well. He, like I said, 20, 40, 50K months usually. So that's Daniel Steven. Now, as you can see, very different client than Kevin in terms of his answers were mostly low to medium. So his price point was according to that. And then we had Daniel, and his answers are mostly high to medium to high. And his his price point was reflective of that, right? So guys, there's no right way to do it. There's not. But it is important to set your prices accurately. Very important to do that. So with that being said, that's it. That's all I got for you today. Hopefully you guys understand the price range that you should be in now and you're confident in it, right? You don't have to tweak and adjust your prices based off how you feel or based off your sales 1 month. You should be confident in it after going through these 5 variables. Huge disclaimer. This is just my view on it. Okay, this is not something I learned in a Harvest business textbook or anything like that. This is just my view on it. And after working with over 900 online health and fitness coaches over the last 7 years, helping my clients understand pricing better, because it is a question I get all the time. These are some different variables that I use. So make sure that you guys have discernment in everything that you see online, including myself, and you act on things that are aligned with your core values in your coaching, in your company, and leave what doesn't. So huge disclaimer on that. And then secondly, if you have any questions, reach out. Send me a DM on Instagram. If you're a client and you're watching this, send me a DM on School, because I like to keep it all in there. But yeah, I hope you guys got some good value from this. I hope there were a couple of good light bulb moments for you. If you took nothing from this, at least hopefully you got more clarity on your ideal type of client and kind of what that direction looks like, and the range of prices that you should be at, because that's my goal for this presentation. So that's it for me, guys. Hope you guys are having an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one.